summer, the smell of fresh-cut grass, kids running through the sprinkler, frolicking barefoot in the poisoned blades of a monoculture crop that's essentially an ecological dead zone. A dead zone that's been slowly sickening our natural environment for the better part of a century. Okay, easy there, you say. Nicole, surely you're exaggerating. I'm not. I'm going to drop some heavy stuff on you. It might make you uncomfortable, but no need to panic, because I'm also going to arm you with concrete, practical steps to do your yard right. But first, have you ever wondered why we place such a huge premium on meticulously manicured grass?
Some folks call it a lawn.
Why not mow your lawn the easy way?
But it's really more than that.
I mean, who started this idea, and what has the cost been to our natural environment? Now, if you're the kind of person who wants to just skip right ahead to the practical points, go ahead, it's right here. But if you really want to understand why it's important, hang in there with me. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Vego Garden, makers of terrific raised garden beds. I vetted and chose them for my own garden renovation last year. I replaced these old rotting wood frames with Vego's corrosion-resistant steel, which has a coating 5 times more resistant than any other metal garden bed on the market. I love the craftsmanship. Rounded cap nuts so there's no scraping fingers on bolt heads, rounded corners and heavy-duty rubber edging. Vego's 17-inch beds are taller than other brands, saving me from an aching back. They also have extra tall 32-inch beds. And it's all modular. You can customize to fit your dream layout. Check out Vego by clicking the link in the description below this video. Let me take you back to how the pristine green lawn took root in the first place. So, back in the 18th century, some European ultra-rich came up with a new way to show off their wealth. They decided they would surround their palatial houses with a green carpet of lawn grass, a crop with zero agricultural value. See, up until then, the vast lands of these estates were used to grow food, or at least rent the land to a farmer who would grow food. But this new landscaping idea was a way to tell visitors, or even people who passed by in their carriages and could see these estates from afar, it told them that we are so rich, we don't need to grow food. We can instead waste our money on a ridiculous ornamental crop that we have to actually pay people to take care of. So how did that trend jump the ocean over to the United States? Well, around this time, the rich of the newly minted United States were people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, who saw the trend in Europe, brought it back to their estates, and they were rich enough to turn some of their lands into lawn. But the vast majority of Americans were not, and the way that homes were built up until the mid-19th century is that your house was built on the road. In fact, I live in a 200-year-old house. We're about like 18 feet back from the road. I have a little sliver of yard in front of me. Most of the yards in that day would be behind the houses, and what you would use it for was like a kitchen garden, or you would keep chickens, very practical things. There is a major moment that opened up lawns for the masses. The push lawnmower was invented in the mid-1800s. Suddenly, a regular person could afford to upkeep the lawn, whereas they didn't have money to hire servants to hand scythe their grass. They now had a little machine that could push around and mow the lawn. And that really opened up this landscaping idea. Lawns were really popularized in the 1950s, that post-World War II era.
This Sunbeam electric mower is powerful enough to take on the thickest grass, and yet it's so light, he can even talk his wife into using it.
One half of his lawn has been eaten by a sheep, the other half cut with a Jacobson power mower.
It works hard. You don't.
A pristine green lawn really became a symbol of the American dream. This was success. This was membership into the affluent middle class.
The total effect is an outdoor living area to be looked at with pride.
A beautiful, super healthy lawn with less time and less work than ever before.
I'm sorry, can we break this down for a second? A pristine lawn as a sign of success. What I read in that is conformity, homogenization. Like success is just this one standardized goal, that like success can't come in many flavors. But the real madness in all of this is that lawn grass is not easy to grow. It is really difficult to maintain this grass, to keep it green and looking good year round. The lawn grass that we use is not native to North America. It is native to places like North Africa and Europe. Even grass called Kentucky bluegrass, that's a marketing name. It is not native to Kentucky or North America. So this non-native plant that we desperately want to keep looking pristine needs a lot of water. Lawn grass is the most irrigated crop in the United States.
Its handsome styling makes it a thing of beauty to watch.
All we ever hear about are farmers who grow almonds, avocados, these big orchard crops that are sucking up our water supply. That's what makes headlines. But guess what? That's food that we can actually eat. We collectively, homeowners, are dumping water for a crop we can't even eat. That's just crazy. In the hottest, driest parts of the US, homeowners actually spend more to irrigate their lawn than to use water for any other purpose. Cooking, drinking, bathing combined, they spend more on irrigating their lawn. And then there are all the gas-powered lawnmowers and leaf blowers and weed whackers. They emit more CO2 and pollution per hour than 11 cars. And that's mostly because there's not really any regulation on these things like there are regulations on the car industry. So we've got water, we've got greenhouse gas emissions, and then there's the lawn care and landscape industry, a $100 billion industry in this country that wants to see our pristine lawns preserved, that aren't really interested in talking about an effort of rewilding your lawn. Stay with me, I'll get to that. So we put down 70 million pounds of fertilizers and pesticides a year in the US to create an immaculate lawn. That is creating an ecological dead zone. When I see an immaculate lawn, I see a desert. There is absolutely zero diversity of life in that lawn. When you grow one kind of crop, that is a monoculture. One plant cannot support an ecosystem. Ecosystems thrive on diversity. We've all heard about the crisis of pollinators right now. They are dying at alarming rates. And one of the things that nobody tells us is that a lot of those native pollinators only get their nectar from one or two particular sources. There are 4,000 native bees, and most of them don't live in hives like honeybees. They're solitary beings, and they only look for one particular so-called weed. In fact, the other day, I was admiring these blue irises I have. They're native plants, and they do feed a lot of pollinators, but along came this one little guy who found this little scraggly weed that was growing in the middle of my irises. And I realized, wow, that's his food source. That's his food source. That had to be there to feed him. And it's when we think about our ecosystems as a whole, the interconnectivity between all the life that it supports. When I look at my lawn filled with clover and dandelions and wild violets, I see an area literally buzzing with life. If I sit here very still, I can see dozens of insects. I welcome insects. Insects are the basis of a healthy ecological system. When we put down even a granule of fertilizer, we then think about perhaps the birds that come along and mistake that granule of fertilizer for food. They bring it back to the nest and they feed their babies. And then those poisoned birds die, and then something bigger eats them and they are poisoned, and so on. The runoff, when we irrigate our lawns, all those fertilizers and pesticides go into the storm drains and out into our rivers, out into our oceans. By the way, we don't even know the full extent of the harm that all these different kinds of chemicals have on our own bodies. When our kids go running through the sprinkler barefoot or do cartwheels and then eat a sandwich without washing their hands, what kind of residual chemicals are getting into our bodies? But it's not all doom and gloom. There really are solutions, and it starts with a change of a mindset. It is about redefining what is beautiful. It is about prioritizing the diversity of our ecosystems over some misguided idea of a green, immaculate lawn as being a symbol of success. So here are some concrete things you can do right now. 1, put away the pesticides and the fertilizers. I inherited this lawn a couple of years ago. I haven't put a single thing down on it. Every spring, I welcome in the violets and they get more plentiful every year. They're beautiful, they're purple and they're pink and they're white. And they are the earliest source of food for pollinators. They are also native to our area, so they can really thrive here. And then the dandelions come. And who told us that these happy yellow flowers aren't good for us? They are a wonderful source of nectar. They are actually edible. You can eat dandelion leaves. They're sort of peppery like mustard greens. If you haven't put down any pesticides, go ahead, pick some for your salad. And then I welcome the clover, and this is just such a rich source for bees, but it's also good for our soil. Clover is like a lot of legumes. It adds nitrogen, a natural fertilizer, to our soils. Speaking of fertilizer, number 2, leave the leaves. Leaves are natural, free fertilizer for our soils. There is a natural cycle that we've all interrupted in our pursuit of the pristine green lawn. When leaves fall from trees, they decay. In a normal forest floor, they will sit there and break down, and that is a rich source of organic matter for our soils. So rather than interrupting that cycle with our raking and then causing us to have to put down fertilizers because there's nothing else to naturally feed our soil with, put down the leaf blower, embrace the leaves. Number 3, consider rewilding portions of your lawn. What that means is let it get like this, let the natural weeds come in, or you can turn a portion into a wildflower meadow. I mentioned the small strip of yard that I have between the front of my house and the street. Well, I did that last year. I scattered a bunch of wildflower seeds, and this year we are absolutely blown away by the color that has come up. And you can do it for every season. I put down wildflowers that will come up and bloom in the spring, the summer, and the fall. So it's a rolling carpet of color. 4, consider growing native plants. So in addition to kind of wilding your lawn, focus on adding some native flowers, some native shrubs to your property. So instead of needing to spray pesticides, native plants will attract the good bugs that prey on the bad bugs, and we will create a balanced ecosystem. By the way, I did a small piece on native plants. I'll link that at the end of this video. Imagine if we all did these things, the huge impact it could have on our environment. And when the future of the planet feels so perilous and so many things feel out of our control, these are small, achievable things that really can make a difference.